Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Township of North Frontenac's regular council meeting of January the 12th, 2024. To begin the meeting, I'd like to read a public notice. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of the recording. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. The township shall not be responsible should technical difficulties prevent the recording of any meeting or a portion thereof. Technical issues may include, but are not limited to, the availability of the internet connection, device failure or malfunction, unavailability of social media platforms, or power outages. It should be noted that no protection is afforded to council members, employees, or the public for comments made during meetings which are subsequently challenged in a court of law and are determined to be defamatory. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001, in accordance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, that all information provided for at a public meeting or other public process are considered a public record. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees should be mindful of using names of individuals or entities when discussing matters in public. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior or comments. Approval of agenda.
Moved by Councillor Regent, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda for the regular meeting of council dated January 12th, 2024 as circulated.
Are there any comments? In favor? That motion is carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we have no business profiles. Before we go to the presentation, we have Wayne on. Is Wayne on Zoom? Kelly? Okay, so Councilor Good is joining us through a Zoom connection. So our next item up is the septic reinspection program.
Moved by Councillor Regent, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled 2023 Septic Reinspection Program and Proposed Program for 2024. And the council approves the continuation of a voluntary septic reinspection program in partnership with Mississippi Rito Septic System Office for the 2024 season. And that township staff will assist MRSSO to arrange presentations regarding septic system operation and maintenance for lake associations participating in the 2024 program, and the council approves the Public Works Manager signing the 2024 agreement with MRSSO for septic reinspection services on behalf of the township. And the council instructs the Public Works Manager to place a copy of the 2023 sewage system reinspection program report on the township's website. And that if an environmental task force is created in accordance with the proposed strategic plan, the mandate will include reviewing the feasibility of a potentially limited mandatory inspection program for consideration by council.
We have a presentation. Eric, are you online?
I am.
Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Will the presentation be brought up on the screen here?
Yes, it will. If I can just interrupt for 1 second. Councillor Good, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Yes, I can, Kelly. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thanks again for allowing me to participate electronically. We're teaching a course this week, so I'm coming from Manotick today. So the presentation setup is just reviewing the results of the 2023 reinspection program. Next slide. This year, we completed reinspections, 35 total on 4 lakes, including Cananto, Kashwakamak, Palmerston, and Red Horse Lake. For our participation, we had 60% of property owners present on site during the reinspection to receive the information regarding the maintenance and operation of their system. Through the reinspection, we do classify systems based off of their status or how they're operating at the time of the inspection. So 12 systems were identified as having no concern. 22 systems required remedial work, and we'll discuss later on in the presentation what the remedial work is. Generally, items that don't require a permit, and then one system required replacement. And out of the 35 inspections, 25 inspections were completed on weekends. So this year we took the opportunity to provide weekend appointments, which seemed to be fairly successful for property owners to be on site and able to participate in the inspection of their sewage system. Next. This is just a photo of some of the situations we find and issues or potential issues. So this is just an existing fiberglass tank that was placed underneath the cottage for operation. It's not ideal, but in this case, it was able to be maintained as being pumped and verified its operation. Next. So when we're doing the reinspection, the Ontario Building Code has 5 different classes of sewage systems. Class 1 being outhouses, composting toilets, incinerating toilets. So out of the 35 inspections, 8 properties where we found 8 Class 1 systems. There was 1 Class 2 system identified. Class 2 systems only receive gray water, which comes from sinks, showers, everything but toilet waste, essentially. And then all 35 inspections included a Class 4 system. So a Class 4 is your standard septic tank and leaching field type of system that we all think of. So some of these properties did have multiple systems. So they had a Class 4 and maybe an outhouse that's used in the off-season portions of the cottage usage, or potentially just as overflow usage type stuff. So next. During the reinspection, we are identifying system components and we're measuring their setback distances to different features in the lot, including structures, property line, wells, and to the surface water or the lakes in this case. So you can see based off of the information that we were able to collect, the measurements, all systems were greater than 15 meters to the surface water, which is the building code minimum setback. And then 40% for distribution pipes and 46% of tanks were greater than between 15 and 30 meters. So it exceeds the building code minimums, but less than the 30-meter setback. And it's good to see that the majority of systems were greater than 30 meters from the lake, so more than 100 feet, which provides for increased treatment and removal of nutrients before it can get to any groundwater or surface waters. So as part of the inspection, we're looking at the septic tank and the leaching field. The septic tanks themselves, we are opening the tanks. We're checking the condition of the tank, the baffles, the partition wall, the effluent level, and then the scum and sludge. So the floating and the solids in the tank to determine how it's working and if a pump is needed. So 14% of the system's septic tanks found were plastic, while the majority were concrete, 86%. And then we do record other information with the tank. So 2 of the systems had an effluent filter. Effluent filter, there's one pictured on the bottom left of the slide. It's just basically a screen that filters out solids from going into the leaching bed. They are required under the building code since 2007 for new installations, but they can be retrofit into existing systems. And we do encourage that retrofitting, as it does help increase the treatment and can increase the life of the leaching bed. 27% of the concrete tanks had signs of corrosion. So corrosion is just the breakdown of the concrete in reaction with the gases produced in the tank. So it's just something that needs to be monitored over time to ensure that the tank's going to operate correctly, baffles don't fall off, or partition walls aren't missing. And then 17% of the class 4s inspected required a pump out at the time of the inspection. So that means that 1/3 of the tank volume was occupied by scum or sludge, and that's where the building code requires a pump out. So all that information provided back to the property owner through the reinspection report. Next. So the system status, this is what we're kind of ranking the systems at or classifying them at. So as discussed a little bit at the beginning, we break them down to kind of 4 categories. So no concerns means that there's no operational or maintenance issues identified at the time of the inspection. Remedial work, operation or maintenance issues were identified. And then again, these issues are generally things that can be done that don't require a permit, such as pumping, replacing baffles, removal of vegetation over the bed, trees, shrubs, even leaves. We've been commenting more on that. Leaves being placed over the leaching bed that holds moisture in and can affect the operation. So work that's just part of the regular maintenance and operation of a system. More information required. So at the time of the inspection, we had 1 or more questions regarding the system or systems on site. So this is generally a situation where we can't identify where the wastewater is being directed to, or if there may be multiple systems on the property, even the type of water source. So we were able to answer all those questions through the questionnaires or the actual inspection. And then system replacement. So on-site the on-site system was not being maintained or operated properly and was posing or could pose a risk to human health or the environment. So these are systems that either require repair or complete replacement identified through the reinspection program. Next. I just included this photo of a failed system, and the big indicator as we were exposing the tank is the biomat. So biomat is naturally occurring in all systems and will form in all leaching beds and areas where you have saturation of sewage. So in this case, you can see the black material in the soils. That just indicates it's been saturated with sewage over time, turning the material to the sand black with organics and whatnot. So just an indicator of system function. This one's our system status at the time of the inspection. So it's broken down by lake and how many of each that were found. So overall, again, 34% no concerns, 63% remedial work. So again, that's items like pump outs, removal of roots, replacement of baffles, removal of vegetation, and then the 1 system replacement identified to be repaired, removed, replaced. Next. And then along with that, through the remedial work, we identified deficiencies in the system or what the operation or maintenance issues are. So again, 6 systems required pump outs. 4 systems required maintenance of the baffle. So that's either repairing the baffle or replacing it. Removing roots. Roots can be a big issue, more just from the operation of the system causing backups or blockages in the tank, ultimately blocking the field bed and causing it to fail prematurely. Vegetation issues. So this is over top of the bed, trees, shrubs being left to grow over top, which is going to impact the operation over time by plugging the pipes. Effluent level, we had 6. So this is during the inspection. It was identified that the effluent level was elevated in the tank, or it might have been lower. And that can be an indication of the system starting to age or starting to fail. It can also just be as simple as a pipe that is not level and the water level has to elevate to get out. So it's something that we mention and recommend that it be monitored over time, just to verify if that's the normal operation level or if it is indicating that the system's starting to fail and they need to plan for replacement. And then the corrosion, monitor the corrosion in the tank. We had 8 systems. And that's it for the report. So covering the information from the 2023. If you have any questions.
Council, the floor is yours. Any questions for Eric? Deputy Mayor.
Eric, how do you follow up when you identify a replacement need? Number one, and number two, do you follow up at all on minor rehabilitation issues?
So for the replacement, those items were sent to South Frontenac, and now are being sent to the Township Chief Building Official. The one replacement was identified and sent to the Chief Building Official this morning, just as a follow-up. And then for the remedial work items, those are items left to the property owner to resolve. They're not necessarily non-compliance with the building code, so we leave them as operational and maintenance items for them to work on.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Hoodle.
So just to follow up on that replacement that was sent this morning, what authority
Yes.
do you have? Sorry, that's a question to Don.
So any failed septic under my BCIN number appointment of council to look after septic, so I could go in and check with the people to see what is done through Eric's program. Since it's a failed septic, I have lots of options, writing orders to comply and that kind of stuff. It's just a general building code replacement at that time.
Don, that is right in the agreement that the homeowner signs, right? That if there is a failure, it will be, the building inspector will be notified, the building official.
Yes, in the Eric's agreement, yeah, with
So they know that going in.
yeah, the transition between South and myself, that was the issue. So that, yeah, so today I got the email and I can follow up with that from there on.
Councillor Hermer. Don't like it this morning.
No, I guess the question would be to Don, when there's a system failure, how long are people given to do the replacement?
Well, the thing about septic systems, if it's a spill, then MOE could be included in that situation. But most times we would try to deal with it in-house, and if it's an order compliant, they're refusing. Well, that's more difficult in the situation. But if it's just a matter of them getting an application and paying the fees and stuff like that and replacing it, then it's very, we do it in a timely manner. Then from there on.
Councillor Fowler.
Yes, you're talking about plastic tanks and concrete tanks. Which would be the better type of tank to have? Because I'm listening to the concrete tank having corrosion. Is there one better than the other? Or?
I really can't comment on that because the building code allows for both styles. So that, as long as they meet the CAN standard USA rating, they have to have a stamp on them. So those have to be approved septic systems. So the province is allowed either or. So yeah, it's just a matter of the situation that, that the people are in. And sometimes they need a low boy system because they don't have a lot of area to put theirs in. And there's different, scenarios to those grounds, right? So it's really a choice thing, really. So.
Darwin Sproul has a comment.
Darwin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to thank Eric for the presentation and for the job he does on inspections all summer. I know from firsthand experience that he does a great job, and I think the folks that participate enjoy dealing with him, and he's certainly knowledgeable. Just a couple comments on the remedial work item and the 6 pump outs. That may be a little higher than normal, but I know Eric likes to have the owner leave the pump out, inspect it prior to pumping. And then they pump afterwards. Otherwise, a number of them might have proceeded with the pump out anyway. And I also wanted to make note that there are other inspections performed on septics within the township over the season outside of this process, where if there's a building permit or a planning application, quite often an inspection gets done. And we're finding it's more common now with sales that it's part of the pre-sale inspection. So that adds to the inspections that are completed in addition to what we do under the program. Thank you.
Thanks. Deputy Mayor.
Eric, congratulations on getting more response, and I guess that's partly due to your presentations at the lake associations. My question is, if you continue to have more success at lake association meetings, can your department handle, say, a doubling or a tripling of response? Is that too big a workload?
No, at this point in time, with the voluntary, there is fluctuation, but we do have staffing increased just to deal with our current workload. So currently, no, I think we just need to be able to plan for it in the year that we're doing it. And through the voluntary program, doubling the effort, we're able to complete about 10 inspections in a day. So, we'd be talking about another 4 or 5 days. So it wouldn't be an issue.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I have some issues with this. 562 letters. Eric, did you send those out, or did North Frontenac send those letters out?
We sent them out.
Okay, so 562 inspections or 562 letters, uptake with 35 homeowners. That's, what is that, 6.2% or 5.6%? Sorry, 6.2%. I find that really low. We've been dealing with the North Frontenac Lake Association Alliance. They've agreed to work with us to do maybe a mandatory pumping system or a program and do some of this. I just don't think, I think I'm not going to vote against continuing the voluntary program, but I think we have to do something that really encourages people to get involved without making it mandatory. Because when I've been talking to people, I haven't found one individual, well, sorry, other than one or two, have said, we want this as a mandatory system. They want to be left on their own, and they want to be able to take care of their own system. So I find it, the question would be, if it does take off, can we afford it? So, okay, so as far as, and I know Councilor Regent has a comment, as far as this resolution goes, I'm in favor of the resolution as long as the last clause about the environmental task force is removed. Councilor Regent?
Just a question, the 562 letters, that was just North Frontenac?
Mm-hmm.
So out of the total number of permanent residents or total number of septic systems, I guess maybe is a better way to put it, how do you decide who these 562 people were that got the letters?
Mr. Mayor, might I respond to that?
Sure, please do.
Yeah, we have a program and a listing of all the lakes in the township, and we go through them. We're on a 10-year cycle. So we identify the lakes we're doing in any given year, and we identify the owners and the contact information, and then we give that to Eric, and he does the mail out. So at any given time or lake, we would expect to be back to that lake in 10 years. So we have that rotation organized, and we're actually going into this season, we're starting over again on a new 10-year cycle that we have completed all the lakes over the last 10 years.
Thanks, Darwin. Councilor Regent.
Would we get more people participating if we sent out more letters? And maybe it was a shorter cycle?
I couldn't really, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I couldn't really say it, just that it's more organized in this manner, and I guess So rather than tracking, say, individual owners and they only get a letter every 10 years, we've just organized it by lake. And I guess I just might add that helps Eric's inspections because he knows in any given season, he's focused on 4 or 5 lakes.
I just think that 6% is tremendously low for any program. So any final thoughts? I would like to propose that we accept the resolution without that last paragraph. Counselor Hoodle.
Can I ask why?
Well, that implies, yes, you can. That implies that it's going to be in the strategic plan, and it's not per se. I don't want to tie council's hands. And, you know, we can always add this at a later date. It's not mandatory that it goes in now. Deputy Mayor.
The only thing in this strategic plan is a potential environmental task force. There's nothing in the strategic plan about its detailed recommendations. I don't see any threat to such a task force looking at the possibility of a limited mandatory inspection program. I don't see a threat. I would vote for this as written.
Counselor Fowler.
The environmental task force, what other responsibilities do they have?
We don't know yet. We haven't created it.
Well, we're talking about putting it in. We should know what it is.
It was discussed at the strategic meeting. It involved looking at climate change issues and looking at environmental issues. That's very general. That's all it says in the strat plan.
So to me, that means we don't need to put something specific in it. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of lake associations, a lot of cottage owners and permanent people or permanent residents, and nobody is saying we want this. If there's a very few, and I don't see why we would even consider putting it in if push comes to shove and we get down the road 5 years, 3 years, and we want to put it in, we can always add it. That's just my thought. Councilor Hoodle.
It's interesting because I've talked to those same people and I would say the majority of those want those programs. So
Well,
I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping that in. I would agree with the deputy mayor.
okay. Anybody else in favor of the resolution? 2, 3. Opposed? Counselor Good.
I'm in favor of the resolution, and just can I add to it too, is from what I understand with the Mississippi and that they're doing monitoring of the lakes and the clarity of the water and that I think the septic system pumping, septic system inspection has been worked out over the years. Like finding even one on a, especially I'm not sure on Lake Cache Washback that has to be replaced. I think that's a big bonus for us, that out of the system. If I'm not sure where it was, but if it's washing into the lakes at all or whatever. But I think the lakes are staying pretty clear from what I've seen on the reports from Mississippi and the clarity of the water from the other than some of the species that's coming into the lakes.
Okay, just for clarity, Wayne, you said you are in favor of this resolution?
Yes, I am.
Okay, it's carried. Okay. Rural Frontenac Community Services, Louise Moody, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Sarah McCullough are here to provide a presentation to us.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for taking your time to let us speak here today to you about our programs. For those of you who don't know me, I am Sarah McCullough, and I'm the Youth Program Supervisor with Rural Frontenac Community Services. And this is Louise Moody, and she is the Executive Director of Rural Frontenac Community Services. So, next slide. So who is Rural Frontenac Community Services? We hope that you know a little bit about us. So we are a hub of programs and services serving everyone from cradle to walker is what I like to say. We have daycare, early on youth programming, family counseling programming, transportation services, and seniors programming. Our agency works to provide services and programs to all residents in Frontenac, in rural Frontenac County. So we serve primarily North and Central Frontenac to help them live life to its fullest. We have a licensed daycare located in Charlotte Lake that has 24 children. We run early on programs in up to like 9 locations across all of Frontenac County. Our seniors program provides Meals on Wheels, home help, PSWs, respite, foot care. We also do community cafe. I think our next one up here is at the Barrie Community Hall.
Salt is at Barrie.
Salt is at Barrie Community Hall yesterday. Tuesday. Oh my goodness, my apologies. Salt is at Barrie Community Hall on Tuesday. So like we're up and we're present. Our family counselor provides free confidential counseling to anyone in our catchment area, ages 16 plus. So he'll drive all the way. He drives to do home visits. He comes up here, he goes down south, wherever he's needed to fill that gap. And he doesn't require a referral. So they don't have to have a diagnosis or a referral to see him. They can call us and be like, I need somebody to talk to. And our family counselor, Brandon, responds immediately or as fast as possible to give clients the services that they need. Our transportation services provides rides to everyone wherever they need to get to go, be it social gatherings, medical, transportation for our youth to programming, visits, anything that needs. We also, our transportation services organizes our Meals on Wheels drivers, which delivered food up here 3 days a week. Three. See, not my program, but I still try to remember. All right, next slide. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So who's the youth program? What am I? Well, I am one of the only youth programming, I'm the only youth servicing agency in North and Central Frontenac. So I provide any kind of program that our youth want. They come to me, they say, Sarah, I really want interested in this. What can I do? And I try and find a way to make it happen. So we do programming for ages 6 to 21. We say up to 21 because youth with special needs can stay in high school up until the age of 21. So we want to make sure our programs are inclusive to anyone who wants to participate. Next slide, please. What we do, nope, wrong slide. We do kids club programming. We offer babysitters courses, home alone courses. We run March break camps, summer camps. I have a youth hub that runs bi-weekly in Charlotte Lake, and opposite weeks we run a youth program in Parham. I work as a rural youth outreach worker, so I work with youth at risk of addictions, homelessness, or needing access to services as a guide to help them get set up with counselors, food supports, home supports, whatever is needed for those youth. I also have tried to provide as much volunteer opportunities for our youth. So as you may know, teenagers are required to get 40 hours of community services. So we try to provide multiple opportunities throughout the year for our youth to get those hours, because it's very hard in our small rural communities to find things for youth to get their volunteer hours at. We have only so many opportunities. So we try to work as much as we can to get them involved. And I also provide the Clothes for Kids snowsuit program and the Warm Feet project, providing winter boots to kids in the community, and the back to school backpack program to make sure that kids get backpacks for return to school with school supplies. So Kids Club, because that's what we're here to talk about, really. So our Kids Club programming runs one night a week for 2 hours at Granite Ridge Education Center, Clarendon, Land O'Lakes Public School, and the Child Center. And we come prepared with games, crafts, healthy emotions, or self-care activities for our youth to participate in. We really focus on building leadership skills in our youth and developing teamwork skills and strategies for our youth to develop into amazing people. Next slide. In North Frontenac, So over last year, we attended weekly at Clarendon Public School. We were so happy that schools were back to being open to community use, so we could be up there. We have run at full capacity, so we take 15 youth into the program. We originally had a waiting list, which is the first in the 5 years I've been here that we got a waiting list at Clarendon, which was awesome. And we've actually been able to put those kids into the program as we had a couple of kids move schools. So we have new youth, and 7 of the youth signed up this year for our Kids Club are completely new to the program. So they haven't been engaged in our program before. They've just become like of age or moved into the area. So that's amazing to see some new youth into our program. We also have a lovely volunteer, and she's featured in this photo here. This is Lindsay. Lindsay is a grade 8 student at Clarendon Public School, and she is a volunteer with our program, and she's been volunteering. This is her 2nd year, and we're so happy to have Lindsay there volunteering and gaining leadership skills while she's there with us. And for your information, we've been running at Clarendon Public School since 2010. So 13 years, we're into our 14th year. Our leadership programs, like as I said, I try to provide as many opportunities for youth to have, get their community service hours and to be involved in their community. The way that we engage youth to stay in our communities is by giving them opportunities in our community. So we hire youth to work at our programs. Unfortunately, at Clarendon, it's a little difficult because we hire high school students and they don't make it back off the school bus in time to get there to work at the program, and we would have to take them out of class to come up with us. So we try to engage the grade 8s to volunteer at the program. We have in the past hired a grade 8. This year we didn't have a grade 8 who was willing to work at the program. So Lindsay's volunteering and is amazing. But with other commitments, it's sporadic attendance sometimes. So we often consult our youth on what they want to do in our programs because we want to make sure it's for them. We want to know, what do they want in their communities? What do they want to see? So we ask them, what are the activities you want to do? What is something you want to learn about? We go to our high school kids and we go, what are things that you need in your community to get it running? We really try to make the programs as amazing as we can for those kids. Through our leadership, we also do the babysitters course. So last year, we finally found a partner to offer the babysitters course up here in the north. So we got to go to the Barrie Community Hall last year in March, and we provided the babysitters course, and we had 15 participants, which is awesome. And we're hoping to come back again this year with it to get up into Coin or to the Clare Mill Hall or the Alba Community Hall, whichever one we get to provide it to our northern youth. So it's a little bit less travel for them. Summer programming. So I run a 7-week, 3-day-a-week camp for up to 20 youth, ages 6 to 12. Our camp runs down in Sherbet Lake. And then we offer weekly pop-ups across North and Central Frontenac. So this past summer, we went to Sand Lake Beach on July 6th, and we had a couple youth come out. And then we were at Clare Mill Hall on August 3rd. We'd hoped to be up here one more time, but we were sick. Our staff got sick, a fault of working with children all the time. But so we try to get up here at least twice to 2 to 3 times throughout the summer to do free outdoor programming for kids and their parents to attend. And then we have the day programming as childcare down in Sherbet Lake. And we do have kids from North Frontenac who attend our summer camp program full time actually too. I've mentioned that we serve up to age 21. So we have the Youth Hub, which is targeted to our high school kids, so our grades 9 to 12. And it runs bi-weekly in Sherbet Lake at the center, which is located across from the bank. We teach food cooking skills and social emotional skills. They can receive homework help. They can connect with me as the outreach worker to get connected to different supports, or they can just hang out. So in this picture, you'll see it was Halloween. So they were decorating Halloween cookies and having a blast. We've seen great attendance so far since we reopened in May of last year, and we're hoping to continue bumping that up. And we've actually invited Maltby Center, which does children and youth counseling, and they are using our hub space bi-weekly on Wednesdays to provide like a social emotional skills group there. Funny. So we are super, super thankful that North Frontenac has provided us for the last 13 years with funding to be able to offer our Kids Club programming at Clarendon Central Public School. And it's just amazing. The kids love it. When we go into the school, it's, oh my gosh, Jess. Jess is our assistant who runs the program daily with us. And Rebecca is our student who's a college student who comes and works in the program. The kids are so excited to see our staff and they're so excited to participate in our games. And we're so thankful that you guys allow us to have this funding that makes it possible for us to provide this programming. Next slide. So you'll see here is our 2024 budget for our Kids Club in North Frontenac. I have it broken down. So Kids Club runs on around 38 weeks, give or take with snow days. You never know. Hopefully it's not Tri-Board Tuesday this year. So we run about 38 weeks a year and we include in our budget staffing costs, program supplies, food costs, and transportation costs. You'll note that the total for running the program is $9,477. Our request for funding from North Frontenac Township is the same as our last year request of $6,000. The difference is done through fundraising and donations that we get to the agency. Next slide. In addition to our municipal funding, so we receive funding from you for Clarendon Central Public School, and we receive funding from Central Frontenac for our 3 other programs down in Central Frontenac. We also just became a United Way partner agents or anchor agency. So we have secured funding for 3 years through United Way for our Bridging the Gap for Rural Youth program, which helps fund me to be the rural youth worker and to do like the home alone stuff and babysitters courses and all the other little tidbit things that I do with this job. So we've secured that and that's great. We were unsuccessful in some grants that we applied to, so we'll be applying for more grants this year. Our program is fully grant and municipal funded through donation funding. We rely on your support to be able to offer this program to the residents up here and in the grants and donations that we receive throughout the year. And that's who we are. Any questions?
The Regent.
I have so many questions and there's no way we could spend all day just talking about this. So I'm just gonna ask you a few questions and then maybe we can meet some other time. So a couple of so how often would you say that Barry Hall in Cloyne is used for this programming?
So Barry Hall, I do have a key to Barry Hall actually. So last year, end of October last year, we had a grant through Community Foundations from October of 2022 to end of October 2023 or beginning of October 22. I write about 6 grants a year, just to be clear. So it might have been yeah, so we had a grant and we were going once, we had proposed to go to to the Cloyne Hall. We had proposed in the grant to go bi-weekly there to do some programming. We didn't receive funding for that, but we got funding to go once a month there to provide programming. So we were going up once a month and doing drop-in program for the high school kids up there, trying to provide like the youth hub in the Charlotte Lake area. Yeah. So we were going once a month there. We didn't get any uptake. We had 2 kids come out during a summer date when I lowered the age down to 10. So there was no uptake for that.
So maybe we can talk about that because I'm happy to help you with that because there are a lot of high school kids that actually would make use of that service. And that's one of the biggest complaints in my ward is that there's nothing for the high school kids to do.
Yes. So to continue off of that though, so we had that grant ended. I have a partnership with the Lennox and Addington Rural Youth Hub. And I am a part of the Youth Wellness Hubs of Ontario through One Roof in Kingston. So they're supposed to provide programming for all of Frontenac. I'm the Frontenac piece, just me. And then Shannon Ruddy is the LNA person. So Shannon and I are in the midst of planning programming to go up. So last year we went up, Shannon was going up. She had a 4-week period that she was going up weekly and providing after school programming for the high school kids at the school. And she had use of a classroom and a gym space. And then I was going up as my schedule allowed. We went up on lunch breaks and provided lunchtime programming. We'd walk the halls and be like, hey, we've got free food and we've got this game and we've got this activity, come and see us. And we had a lot of uptake from that. Shannon was off since just before the summer and has just come back. So we're hoping to get programming back into North Addington Education Center come this spring.
Okay. Yeah. So I would suggest reaching out to Kate Myers, the new principal. And
Okay.
I'm happy to help you with that.
Yeah.
Just one other question. The seniors programming. I have a special place in my heart for the older population as well as the youth. So just out of curiosity, what exactly does seniors programming mean and how do people access that?
I will, I will answer that one. So we have funding from the Ministry of Health to deliver what we call a basket of services. So that's Meals on Wheels. We do our transportation program for seniors. It's subsidized to get to medical rides. We do respite, which is a PSW coming into the home to do more personal needs. We do home help, which is somebody to come in and help make beds or make meals or to clean the house. We don't do maintenance outside, but we do inter work. We have foot care. Did I miss one? I always miss one. Anyway, we do foot care. We only have a clinic at this point in Charlotte Lake, but an adult day, sorry, respite. So, and respite we do in Plevna once a week. We do it in Charlotte Lake once a week and Parham. So that is an opportunity if you have a family member that can go and socialize. So it means that senior has access to other seniors to connect, and equally there's respite for the family to be able to do other things. So that's our Ministry of Health funding. And Community Cafe. So we're in Ampa once a month. Ampa was chosen. We've done things in Plevna, but we come up with speakers. So we were up in Ampa in December and we did a dental program. We are not here this month because we were there in December and it was too early. But we basically healthcare, it's kind of an introduction to our services to let seniors know that we're here. We do have a partnership with North Frontenac to help subsidize the respite, the home help and just home help right now, right? And then we do SALT, which is Seniors and Law Enforcement Together. That's when we're up in Cloyne, and we usually rotate North and South Frontenac. And we do have people from South Frontenac who'll drive up to do the program, and we sometimes overlap them. So the dental was up in Ampa in December, and they're actually going to be in Piccadilly Thursday.
Okay, so one more question, then I'll leave you be. The Meals on Wheels is once a week?
3 times a week.
3 times a week. Is there a need for it to be 7 days a week? And if there was, how would that work? Is that a lack of resources that it's not? Is that a lack of money? Like what is stopping that from being 7 days a week?
So all of the above. So we do have people who would get meals. So may order 2 meals and they make it last. We do frozen meals. Pre-pandemic, we only came to North Frontenac once a week. So it's new to have 3, but it's really capacity. So capacity of our kitchen, it's a lot of work. Everything is made from scratch, right? So 3 days a week, we changed from 2 days to 3 days during the pandemic. And we're really at our capacity because they need a day to shop. They need to be able to cook. So 3 is our capacity, but they're excellent frozen meals. We buy them from Lanark. They're made at Lanark Lodge and flash frozen. So that we do quite a few seniors get the frozen meals if they can't get out. We also rely on volunteer drivers, and I've done the route a couple times, and we have 4 routes and they take about an hour and a half. So that's 4 volunteers 3 days a week. We have really dedicated volunteers, but and then the driving is just really expensive. So we reimburse all of the drivers. So we have been getting increased funding to deliver and maintain the 3 days. And we have about 80 clients. So if we pushed much more, it would be really hard. And you learn not to push a cook.
And our cook for Meals on Wheels also provides our daycare food as well. So they're cooking for 2 programs at the same time.
5 days a week.
5 days a week.
We try to do it efficiently, but there is a capacity issue.
Thank you, ladies. Counselor Hoodle.
I don't have a question, but just a comment. Sarah, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really, really good. And your enthusiasm shows. And so I'm sure what both of you do, both for the youth and seniors, is very welcomed here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to go into the resolution stage. Thank you so much to both of you for coming and educating us again. We really appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you do and your organization does. We really appreciate it.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the presentation from Sarah McCullough, Youth Program Coordinator, regarding the Rural Frontenac Community Services Programs for Rural Youth, and thanks her for her time spent today. And that council defers the decision to provide the $6,000 in funding to the youth program until 2024 budget deliberations.
Any final comments? In favor? Carried. Ladies, you're welcome to stay or you can leave, whatever you'd like to do. Adoption of minutes.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council adopts the minutes as circulated of a public meeting of council held December 15th, 2023, a regular meeting of council held December 15th, 2023, and a meeting of the Personnel and Audit Committee held December 12th, 2023.
Comments? In favor? The motion is carried. We have no business arising. Communications, section A, communications of interest.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information Section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled Communications of Interest.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Nothing coming in out of section B. Chief Administrator's CA's report, confidential complaint files.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives the Chief Administrative Officer's administrative report entitled Confidential Complaint Files 2023 Annual Report for information purposes.
Comments? In favor? Carried.
Moved by,
Chief Billing Official, Building of our annual activity.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Chief Building Official's administrative report entitled Building Department Annual Construction Activity 2023.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Clerk Planning Manager, amendment to the sale of land policy, road closings.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Amendments to the Sale of Land Policy, Road Closings, and the council will consider a bylaw to amend the sale of land policy later in the meeting.
Comments? In favor? Motion is carried. Planning Department year-end report.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Planning Department Year-End Report.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item E, boundary road closing between North Frontenac and Atlantic Highlands, road closing bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Boundary Road Closing between North Frontenac and Lanark Highlands Road Closing Bylaw. And that is required by bylaw 2023. All those parts of the road allowance between the geographic township of North Sherbrooke and the geographic township of Palmerston designated as Part 2 on Plan 13R 22024 and Part 1 on 27R 11946 be declared as surplus and conveyed to the adjoining owner and the township of Lanark Highlands respectively. And the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to stop up, close, and sell a portion of the boundary road allowance.
Comments? Counselor Fowler?
Yeah, will this be the final stage for the people that own that property? Because they bought the property and it was owned by both counties. And is this going to be the last stage that they have to deal with?
Yeah, so this will be the last stage at council. There, of course, there are all the deeds and agreements and things like that to work through, but that all happens at the staff level.
Deputy Mayor.
My question was perhaps a bit trivial. I'm just wondering why we're using the old pre-1998 names of townships rather than the current names.
We have to use the geographic names still for description of legal property because there could be the same road allowances other places. So that's just why we do it that way. There may be a boundary between us that's in two different geographic townships somewhere.
So you wouldn't, for example, say North Frontenac Township Ward 3. That's not precise enough?
No, because again, there were the three townships in Ward 3, so then we would have a South Canonto, that kind of thing.
Any other comments? In favor? Motion is carried. Item F, Clerk Planning Manager, proposed amendments to the notice requirement policy.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Proposed Amendments to the Notice Requirement Policy. And the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting adopting the updated notice requirement policy.
Comments? I have one. Budget operating and capital. Current schedule is newspaper and on the website 10 days prior to public council meeting. We're dropping that to 7. Why are we doing that? What's the logic? Sorry.
So, I mean, we can increase it back to the 10 days. The big change with that one is that it's not going to be a public meeting required before passing anymore. It will just be public consultation throughout the budgets process rather than having that formal public meeting the day of adoption. But if you'd like it back to 10 days, that's fine too.
I've noticed lately that we've seen a number of pieces of correspondence from other jurisdictions talking about doing away with advertising in the print media because they're becoming fewer and farther between and very expensive. There's none of that issue here.
So we don't have an issue right now. The Frontenac News is the paper we use and it's still printing. So that's great for us. There are jurisdictions where they are struggling to find printed newspapers anymore. So that's becoming an issue. And a lot of the legislation specifically says that you have to do notice in a newspaper, Planning Act being one of them. That's the one I'm familiar with. And so those people are struggling to find a way to meet the legislation. That's what was coming from those correspondence.
Thank you. Okay, folks. All in favor of the motion of the resolution? It's carried. Economic Development Task Force proposed municipal campground.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be resolved that as recommended by the Economic Development Task Force, council receives for information the Manager Community Development's administrative report entitled Economic Development Task Force Proposed Municipal Campground, and that council instructs the Manager Community Development to draft a business plan for a potential municipal campground in North Frontenac to be presented at a future meeting date for council's consideration.
Okay, we have a presentation. Matt? I wait to get you halfway across the floor, buddy.
I just wanted to get closer to the screen because I'm starting to not be able to see it as well from the distance, as much as I don't want to admit to it. Thanks very much for having me today. So today we're going to discuss an initiative the EDTF has spent a bit of time discussing as they believe it'll be beneficial to the township moving forward. The municipal campground is an innovative economic and community opportunity. So let's delve right into it. So briefly today, we're just going to talk about camping as an industry and the campers themselves. We're going to talk about municipal campgrounds across Ontario. We're going to discuss some benefits and advantages of municipal campgrounds and then suggest a way forward. So the camping industry in Canada is quite large. And we learned quite a bit about, I'm sorry, we're getting into camping industry campers. Let's talk about Canadian campers. So 25% don't reserve ahead of time. 73% travel less than 300 kilometers. So they stay local and they spend their money local at when they go camping in the region. In Canada, a lot are predominantly tent campers. People start out as tent campers and they progress into using RVs and then become cottagers as well. That's kind of the trend. A significant amount of campers have larger income than average in Canada. So by attracting those campers to our community, they're going to be able to spend their disposable income in our community. And a very important note to make is that 25 to 54 is the working age of campers on average. So that working family age is the demographic that campgrounds are attracting to your community. So now we'll get to camping in Canada. So we have quite a lot of campgrounds in Canada, over 4,000, and this data is from 2014. So there's nothing really on the market right now that's brand new data, but it's expected that this data would be increased quite a bit because it's nearly 10 years old. The split for campsites you see is almost 50-50 in terms of overnight, so transient type campsites, to seasonal campsites. Quite a few Canadians went camping in 2022, 5.5 million. And the sector is really getting quite a bit of revenue growth year after year. And it's important to mention that the camping sector is not just your campgrounds per se. It is everything from your RV sales to your maintenance to your camp tents and your Bishop Lakes that are selling your worms and your fishing lures and stuff. It's a lot of spin-off as an industry. And the projected sector growth, like I mentioned, is growing significantly, 470 million by 2027, 470 million increase. So the graph's a bit hard to see in the corner there, but the market size is into the billions in Canada. It took a dip in COVID, which was to be expected, but you're seeing it recover quite a bit, nearly to the 2019 numbers. I'm sure when the 2023 numbers come out, it wouldn't be unexpected to see that actually surpass 2019. And once again, it's billions in US dollars, so that's the total market size. So we're getting a bit local now. We're starting to parse it down to the province. 1.7 billion to Ontario's GDP. 25% Canadian of the camping jobs in Canada are in Ontario, and now 18% of Ontarians are campers. So in the middle here, what we're trying to say is that the Ontario market appears undersupplied overall. So if we took the actual numbers from 2014 of campgrounds and campsites, and we did our share by the population, Ontario's share of the Canadian population, you'd see that it looks like we're around 500 campgrounds short and nearly over 8,000 campsites short. So that's projecting that there's definitely a shortage on a per capita basis, and that's not even reflecting the fact that we have a higher than average population that goes camping compared to the other provinces. Just a brief look at the Ontario parks across the province. Over 19,000 car camping sites, 10 million visitor days, and 93 million in revenue. So this is a huge industry in Ontario, and this is reflecting that provincial government is able to operate this successfully and have done so for decades. Okay, now we're getting closer, getting down to the local stuff. So everyone knows Bon Echo is quite popular, fifth most popular park in Ontario. It had a 94% car camping occupancy rate over the summer, and over 200,000 camper nights. Now the Parklands, we have a 68% occupancy. We did 290,000 in revenue, and had an 85% occupancy rate for vehicle camping over the summer as well. So significantly higher, and those numbers are projecting up each year. They keep going up as we get busier. So we talk about North Frontenac's accommodators, our businesses. We have, to my estimation, 36 lodges, resorts, and campgrounds that we would exclude Airbnbs. These are what would be classified as in that industry, lodges, resorts, and campgrounds. And to my estimation, 44% of them offer tent camping in some capacity. But I'll put a caveat to that. All of those operations have seasonal campers and are primarily based on seasonal campers. there are very few, I was hesitant to even name them, that have dedicated places for camping because they really don't. It's more of a situation when a guest of a seasonal camper comes, or if somebody is passing through and on a Friday night and stops in and says, "Hey, can I camp here?" It's not a market that they really go after in North Frontenac. It's really transitioned from in the past to being now seasonal based. So once again, occasional or one-off situations. It's not a dedicated market for our business operators because for them, the seasonal market offers them guaranteed money in hand. It also offers them the ability to have better oversight of their operation from a business perspective. So in North Frontenac, we've identified some market gaps that we suspect are affecting the camping industry here. Capacity, there's no question with given the demand, people are struggling to find bookings to come here. Even having, like, when we look at North Frontenac Parklands bookings, I mean, November 1st, they're opening up and certain sites and certain weekends are quite busy. There's limited variety. As I mentioned before, there's limited variety for transient tent and trailer sites. So if you're a spur of the moment person in July and you don't book ahead of time and you say, "Hey, let's come up and go stargazing," you know, it's really hard to find a place to stay. And that can starting to extend into our shoulder seasons a bit too. People are recognizing that, you know, June, September, October, these are nice times to come and stay up here. And I also want to mention too that we all don't know the effects of climate change, but you know, it seems that sometimes these shoulder months are becoming warm, nice weather too. So we're expecting to see increased pressure on our current capacity and variety. Reservations, like I mentioned, that it's hard for people to reserve to even think about summer plans in January. But our reservations for key weekends and key accommodations need to be done months ahead in most cases. In our summer months, especially, our providers do require minimum stays. I don't know of any provider in the summer months that allow by policy a one-night stay. It's usually a 3-night minimum. Transient campers don't necessarily want to stay the 3 nights, and there's a number of reasons for that. Sometimes they're traveling through North Frontenac on their way to another destination, say to the east of the country. So municipal campgrounds would offer some of that flexibility. And lastly, accessibility. I don't believe that there are any, to my knowledge, of any fully accessible campgrounds in North Frontenac. Although I will say we have a lot of great operations that are making big strides in accessibility and recognizing that importance. So nothing to take away from the providers, but there is quite a bit involved given the unique challenges of campgrounds to make them fully accessible. So that is a gap. I would argue that that's probably a gap across the province, though. It's not a North Frontenac specific issue. So let's dive into a bit about municipal campgrounds. So there's an estimated 51 of them in the province, and they make up 18% of total campgrounds in the country. Not the Ontario ones, but municipal campgrounds across the country. And there's quite a few examples across the province. Some ones closer to us are South Dundas to the east and the city of Peterborough to the west. Could be a Peterborough County. I'm not quite sure of the logo. Either one. These range from small operations. They can be 50 campsites to, I know the one in Western Ontario has over 250 campsites. Some have been operating for 10 years. Some have been operating for 60 years plus. There's a few that are on lakefronts. Most of them actually are not on waterfront, but some are on waterfront. Some of them also incorporate parks or other recreational amenities into the property. So there's the ability to hybrid the concept a little bit. So potential benefits of a municipal campground. Well, visitor attraction, it's a given. If we have more campsites, people will generally come and visit us. And when they come here, they're going to spend some money, hopefully. They also, by people coming here and sharing the positive traits of their experience, they tended to let their family or friends know a little bit more. And that's really good for investment attraction. Investment's really referral based in a lot of cases. Hey, Uncle Joe, I visited North Frontenac. It's amazing, this place. You got to have a look at it. Uncle Joe goes, hey, great idea. I'd love to build a resort, or I'd love to build a store here or something. So those are the economic benefits. The community benefits, attracting young people. As I mentioned, working age is the biggest bracket for visitors to campgrounds. If we're looking to attract younger people to the community as a part of community development component, that is key. That's a key demographic that we'd see attracted. As mentioned, some of these campgrounds incorporate recreational amenities. So the campground itself could be open to residents on day access, or say it has a beautiful beach or a trails. That could be something that the residents can still utilize. It doesn't have to be restricted to the campground guests. And there's quite a few examples of that in the province. And of course, employment opportunities, both direct through the park and through the campground, and indirect. Person may be selling wood across the street, or a convenience store opens up. You could have restaurants and so on. There's economic spin-off of that. An important component to mention is revenue generation. So some municipalities in Ontario have been able to operate successfully and use the money that's made from them to reduce the property tax burden to really generate money for the township. It takes considerable effort to do that, I think, but it is a possibility. So why North Frontenac? Well, I repeat these selling points quite often, but we are centrally positioned. So lucky to be positioned where we are, being so close, within reasonable distance of Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, US border. There's not too many locations that have that advantage, I would say, in North America, to have access to those kind of cities and a major international border crossing. And not to mention 200 lakes and waterways, like picturesque views, like just natural beauty. We also have space to grow, which is a barrier to a lot of places, a lot of communities. There's land here that's not developed, both private and public land opportunities. So these are really, really great advantages that we could leverage. And the one that I think is most important is you already have a proven track record of success here with this type of operation, not specifically a car camping or a high density campground, but this municipality has been operating a camping program successfully for years and has that knowledge basis and experience. So from our thoughts are, these are some of the potential key concepts that if we were going to go ahead, this is something that these are the key concepts that we feel would be important to be successful. And this is preliminary, but these are our thoughts. An incremental approach. So not opening everything all at once, not, putting in the water slides and everything all at once, going nice and slow. And having small scale releases as we go. That would reduce risk. It would also give us a chance to reevaluate as we go to see what's working and what's not. Similar projects in the past across the province have required cooperation from our provincial and federal partners. This would be key. Trying to self-fund it, the other examples across the province have demonstrated that the commitment from government partners is important to success. So no tax dollar investment. Now, potentially, in the sense that, and I'm going to put that's why I put the star there. The idea is that we want financial self-sufficiency in this operation. Getting started, most municipalities utilize, an infrastructure loan or some other funding avenue in order to get started with that, to be paid back through the self-sufficiency, through the revenue generation. But the concept is that this isn't something that the township should be sinking tax dollars into necessarily. Like most of these operations are operated for the ability to be self-sufficient. So to proceed, now that in that circle was supposed to say business plan, but it faded out as the transition to PowerPoint. But these are the concepts would be to a business plan. And this would be what we believe would be the next step in this. We would talk about, as we put together the business plan, we would talk about, what the market looks like in the community and competition, various factors that would affect the operations. We talk about marketing and sales. We definitely have a look at the finances to make sure they made sense and present that data. We would definitely address risk. Risk is a very high component of any sort of project or plan. We would discuss how we're going to implement this. How would we implement this, I should say, if going ahead with it. And finally, what are we doing? How are we going to, once we open the door, how is this going to occur on a regular basis? It's important to understand those concepts. So these would be all the components in a business plan if one was to be put together. So there are two options suggested for a business plan development, which we believe is the next step if this is something that there's interest in. Number one would be in-house development. So the team here would research and prepare the business plan to be presented at a future council meeting. Or the next step would be, or the other option would be to issue an RFP to have a third party do the same, develop the business plan and present it at a future, I would say the RFPs would be presented at a future council meeting. So you guys would have a chance to evaluate that criteria as well. So just a few conclusions here. So people of all ages and backgrounds love going camping in Canada, Ontario, and North Frontenac. The market does appear underserved locally and across the province. And I mentioned our unique and strategic advantages. So we've had municipal campgrounds across Ontario operate for decades. They can be financially independent and sustainable, and they can be an effective part of a local economic development plan. So today, we're not asking for any major decisions. We're not asking for large commitments to a campground. We're asking to bring back more information so that council can make an informed decision about the proposal. And thanks very much. Are there any questions?
Counselor Fowler, then Counselor Hermer.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation, Matt, because I think you answered most of the questions I was going to ask. This campground, would it have to be on municipal property, or would we be able to do it on Crown land or something like that?
That's a great question. So in the business plan, when we do through the business plan development process, it'll look at different options. So it's good. It would look at what ways to acquire the land we need, how much that would cost, what either option, the various options would be. What I can say is that for most municipalities, they've determined, and other business plans have determined, that the best course of action is to have municipally owned land, to position the campground on municipally owned land. That's what they've discovered. I can't say that we would necessarily discover the same thing because we are unique compared to everyone else, but that's predominantly the trend.
Counselor Hermer.
Well, I understand that some of these municipal campgrounds, they're tendered out to be operated by the private sector. Now, have you any idea how many of these 51 are operated in that manner?
I couldn't give you a number off the top of my head, but I can say that it's been my experience that I would say my best guess would probably be between 15 to 20%. And it's interesting because some operate in a full third-party manner, fully contracted out. Others operate with still municipal oversight, and then they have like an operator, like a contracted management company that runs like the day-to-day operations. But most predominantly are run and maintained by the municipality. Having said that, throughout the business plan, those would be options for when we get into the operational plan, those would be suggested options and potential ways of moving forward.
Deputy Mayor.
Great presentation, Matt. I just want to put this in a bit of context. This is not a new idea, at least for the Economic Development Group. I think we've been talking about a possible municipal campground for at least 10 years. This is the closest we've ever come to defining what it might be and seeing that it's actually a potential possibility. The other thing I just want to remind councilors of is that the recent strategic plan says we should be looking pretty carefully at the activities of the ETF and taking some of its recommendations fairly seriously. And I understand that what Matt's talking about is a risk, but that could be assessed. Many others are doing it. I just think this puts us fairly close to a possibility that we might want to consider very seriously.
So Matt, are there any campgrounds out there for sale now, or like seasonal campgrounds for sale that we could possibly invest in, turn into a daily campground and so on?
To my knowledge, there aren't any campgrounds that I know of. I mean, we've had recent transactions for campgrounds. I don't know of any that are openly on the market that would meet necessarily the size or the scale, the needs. It would be something I could identify, and I think there would be a great component to include in the business plan about that acquisition of private or public land and current operations. One of the drawbacks to acquiring an existing asset would be that reduction in, or that maintaining of capacity rather than the increase in capacity. I think there's huge availability in the market to increase capacity, both public and private operations, without having any impact at all on each other.
On the other hand, you're buying an existing campground, you're not searching for land, it's already established, you have some of the amenities, so it could go either way. I like, I'm kind of looking at both sides. What's the return on investment? I don't buy the potentially that there's no tax dollars. I think it's most probably there will be tax dollars. And the question is, when do we get that back, or how do we get that back? And there's also the question about us getting into the private sector business. And like a number of those campgrounds you've talked about are in Southern Ontario, and they're directly north. They're like, there's a massive amount of people between Toronto, Kitchener, London, Hamilton, and they're all going west and north. So it's a little bit, not quite a direct comparison, but it is still good. So anyway, does anybody else have any final comments? Councilor Herman, then Deputy Mayor.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about tax dollars being invested in this. I mean, if that's the purpose and the route we take, that is really unfair competition for the private sector. We're collecting tax dollars from these businesses and using that money to create a business to compete with them.
So Deputy Mayor, then Councilor Regent.
I just want to point out, Mr. Mayor, that there are two in Eastern Ontario quite close by. There's one in Perth and there's one in Delta.
Yeah, okay. There's also one in Smith Falls, I think.
So in response to the comment about this would be competition, we actually have private providers on our EDTF, and they assisted with the collection of this information. They're actually in full support of this. So first of all, I don't think we're going to have to worry about competition. The other thing is, and this is the thing that I find really difficult, is somebody comes up with an idea And before we even look into it, we get that we've done this before. We tried this, it didn't work. So, you know, the minute somebody with a vision that actually makes sense hears that, all their enthusiasm is literally gone. So I think it would be nice if we would maybe not do that anymore. And in addition to that, we keep talking about attracting more people to this township, permanent people, tourism. We need younger people. Maybe they'll come back and live here. We need to increase our revenue. We need to support small business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, these things are possibly in our new strat plan. So here's an idea. Here's a solution to a problem. And I think we need to take the negativity out of it and give the staff in this office an opportunity to put together some sort of business plan to see if this would actually work before we decide to say we can't afford it.
Counselor Hoodle.
Just, excuse me, just one comment. I think this is a great idea, great presentation. I'm glad you did a presentation because it really shows the importance of this. 2003, I camped at Bon Echo Provincial Park. That's how I found this location and I bought a piece of property. There's a lot of people that happens to, so that's an excellent thought that you put in the presentation. Thank you.
Anyone else? Counselor Fowler?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, hang on. Counselor Good's on the line.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, I just wondered, I got a few questions here and I'll start off with Matt. Has the Lake Association's been notified of this at all, or is this the first thing the public really? I guess the last meeting we had it too to talk of it, but and then you're talking about no tax dollars and investment. Well, if we use municipal staff to do the planning on it, there is tax dollars going to be going there, and it could be recovered if it goes ahead. Another thing is depending on the lake or wherever this is planning on going, or what we can find for land. It's I won't say it's a proven fact, but I think Mazenah Lake is a fact that like the milfoil, and then they're talking about I think it's the people swimming in the lake that's bringing up, I can't remember what that is called, that it's a pollution that's in the lake from, and I'll say it's from swimming there. There's thousands of people through Bon Echo Park every summer that's in the lake, shampoo, all that kind of stuff on them, and then it washes off in the water. So there's numerous questions on this and I think Matt did a great presentation. He opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff, but I still think there's a lot of questions that has got to be answered before we ever consider proposed going ahead with it. And as Councilor Regent was saying there, yeah, it's not negativity, it's questions that's got to be asked. They may be negative questions, but they got to be asked. We just can't jump in the water and go swimming without knowing how to swim. So that's my statement for now.
Thank you, Counselor Good. Counselor Fowler.
Thank you. I think this is going to answer a lot of questions for short-term overnight stays for people in the area. We have a lot of land around, we don't need to be near Bon Echo or any place like that. We got a lot of land in the whole township that could accommodate something like this. And it doesn't have to be on, as you pointed out, on waterfront. And it could be a theme park or anything. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good start. And I think we should look at it in a positive manner.
Any final comments? In favor? Carried. Sorry, Matt. Thank you very much for your presentation.
I did read the resolution.
Resolution says we're doing it.
But it didn't say which option.
It did. It said we're doing it.
Oh,
Our staff.
Do you want it?
That's the way it is.
Well, what's that again? What's this resolution saying we're doing what?
What's that, Wayne?
I said, what's this resolution saying? We're doing what?
Can't hear that.
Counselor Good would like to know what the resolution says we're going to do now with this.
It's hang on, last paragraph of the resolution. Draft a business plan for potential municipal campground in North Frontenac to be presented at a future meeting date for council's decision. Instructs the manager of community development. So it's asking staff to draft a business plan.
I didn't hear that resolution. Maybe I am deaf on the ears, but I didn't hear that part of it at all. I'm against that. Okay, and I'd like a recorded vote. I think it's too early to draft a plan for staff, and if it is going to be staff that does it, then they better have keep track of their hours and everything for this. The last time with the parklands, I think it was, I'm not, somebody correct me if it was, but I think it was $60,000 that we invested in that in taxpayers' money, and we have not recouped a penny of it.
Sorry. Being on Zoom creates issues, you know.
Can
Go-
we
Deputy Mayor.
read the resolution clearly and vote on it a second time?
Sure.
And also, can I ask if Counselor Good's statement is correct, that we haven't recouped a penny of the original tax dollars that were put into the Crown Land Stewardship Program?
Correct.
So I believe at the time, so we're talking back in 96, 97 here. So yeah, the township invested originally in that, but there was nothing saying that, there's no resolution saying that that original investment had to be returned to the municipality. So any original investment probably would not have been returned. However, at this time, this is our only program that's seeing a plus revenue. So I mean, I guess we could sit here and argue for the whole day whether or not it's been a benefit or it hasn't been a benefit and what the benefits are to the township, but but if you want to go back to 96, 97, there was, I don't believe it at that time saying that that investment had to be paid back. So that's where that was at. We've had this discussion before, I believe.
I just didn't want to leave a statement hanging that we have a history of failed investments.
Corey, correct me if I'm wrong. Any additional profit from that, I understand, can't be divided to any other department. It has to be reinvested back into either a reserve fund for parklands or for development in parklands. Am I correct?
Yes, that's part of our Crown land use permit. It's very clear in there that any of the revenues have to be reinvested in the program.
So they can never be used to repay the tax dollars that were originally invested.
Again, we're going back to 96, 97, so I'm not sure, Councilor Herman, how that, again, at that time I wasn't around, so I don't know, but that was this program was started kind of back then, and there was nothing saying that those funds it was an investment by the township, an original investment, and it's paid off in the long run.
Okay, so just my comment on this is, our staff have done a really good job. The Economic Development Task Force has done a great job, and now we're looking to say, what are the next steps? We're not saying we're going to adopt this. We're not saying we're not going to adopt this. We're just saying we need more information. We need to have a more business-like approach to it. At the end of the day, if staff come up with X, Y, and Z, we may very well decide to have a consultant review it and fine tune it. But we have some of the expertise in-house. Let's make use of it. There's a lot of hurdles to go or to cross. Where's the land? How big is it? What are the amenities? Who's our clientele? Where does the money come from? Are we eligible for grants? All this stuff. So we're just saying, if we vote in favor of this, that we're asking staff to go the next mile, see where, what develops. We're not spending $1 million or $5 million here. We're spending, I don't know, some staff time, which I know is valuable, but Anyway, Tara, would you please read the resolution again?
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that as recommended by the Economic Development Task Force, council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled Economic Development Task Force Proposed Municipal Campground. And the council instructs the Manager of Community Development to draft a business plan for a potential municipal campground in North Frontenac to be presented at a future meeting date for council's consideration. And Counselor Good has asked for a recorded vote. So Counselor Fowler,
I'm in favor.
Counselor Good,
No.
Counselor Hermer,
No.
Counselor Hudel,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ingalls,
Yes.
Counselor Regent,
Yes.
Mayor Litkey.
Yes,
The motion is carried 5-2.
thank you. Next item is our community grants policy.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled Community Grants Policy. That based on the current community grants policy, Clarendon Central School will be required to submit an application for funding annually for up to $1,000 and directs the Manager of Community Development to respond. And that council agrees with the proposed amendments to the community grants policy bylaw and will consider an amended bylaw later in the meeting.
Any comments? Deputy Mayor?
Brooke, have you had any feedback or have you considered the issue of money we give to RFCS versus money we give to Land O'Lakes? Are they about equal?
I've not looked into that directly on what kind of, if we're talking schools and what kind of money goes towards our children. I've not did a consolidation on what that would look like for each school versus the agencies that come in and help them.
But you haven't had any feedback about any kind of unfairness, for example?
I think there is always going to be comments of that. I think we've heard some at our strategic planning as well. Our current policy does state that we can't allow any more and they have to follow the process. That is our council direction with the policy we currently have in place.
Can I just, one more? Do you sort of foresee winnowing out this list every few years as the groups become inactive?
I think there will be a little. I think we're getting pretty narrow of what we have as grandfathered in, and that most of these will likely stay at this point for the foreseeable future.
Any other comments? Well, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, I just see here we're capped at $10,000 on our community grants. Are we up close to that, Tara or Kelly? Who can answer that question? Or we've still got leeway on that 10,000?
We're down to 6, aren't we?
Yeah, so the 2023 budget approved 6,000 in additional funding. So the grandfathered automatic grants that come every year, they don't have to submit an application, is at 18,430. And then on top of that, we had the 6,000 for just other groups to apply annually. And generally it was always $10,000. We will likely be requesting $10,000 again in the 2024 budget. And we did use most of the 6,000 minus $50 or something last year.
Any other comments? So I have a comment. This little school up here with 30-some kids in it, it's probably just hanging on. It's the center of the community in the central portion of this township. And we're asking them to come to us every year for $1,000 when they can use the money now. So my suggestion is to reduce our budget to 5,000 and put the $1,000 in on the automatic grants. There's already one there for $50. Take that 50 out, put the $1,000 in. So we haven't increased the number of recipients, but we have increased the automatic grants by $950. And we reduce the grant to everyone else by the $1,000. My opinion is we need to keep that school. Counselor Hoodle.
Yeah, so I would agree with that.
Anyone else? Counselor Hermer.
So are you suggesting that we're going to reduce everyone's
No,
grant?
I'm suggesting that there's an automatic grant every year. We give so many grants out. And the Clarendon School is already in there. And they're coming out because it's only $50. So leave them in and increase that 50 to 1,000. But take that 1,000 out of the $6,000 that we're giving everybody else and put in 5. It saves them having to apply every year. And it shows our ongoing support for the school. Okay. We do that. We just have to wait for our clerk, our clerk to interpret my my thoughts. John?
So if we do that, the automatic grants will go to 19,430 and we would still ask for 10,000 in the budget.
That was the intention. It'll be up on the floor for discussion, I'm sure.
I would hope it would come in at 1,000 less than the 10. If you're planning on asking for 10, knowing that the $1,000 is in there, and we're just saying that we want that $1,000 to go as part of the automatic grant system, so it would come off the 10 automatically. So you'd be looking at 9, and then we would debate the 9. That's the thought. Stephanie?
Just a question. What is the Conservationists of Frontenac Addington? What is that?
So they have been removed. It was the Trappers Association.
More questions?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Wayne?
Yes, am I hearing this right? You want to extend it from, is it $50 now to $1,000? Is that how I'm hearing this? And
yes.
Okay, I understand that, but like, what's the reasoning behind it? Are they requiring that much more money for something? And I don't know. I just kind of wondering what it is for. I got no problem giving kids money for further their education, but just to give them $1,000 for, I'm not sure what. Can you explain that?
The request was for $1,500 towards school transportation is what they're going to use the money for.
So we don't give this school absolutely anything. And they're in the center of the community. I'm in favor of doing what we can to within reason, to support it and keep it here. We give money to other schools, other organizations and so on. All we're doing by this is transferring money from pot B to pot A and saving them from having to come and ask every year for it. Okay, Tara?
Be it resolved, the council receives for information the manager of community development's administrative report, and that the community grants policy Clarendon Central School will be provided annually $1,000 and directs the manager of community development to respond. And that council agrees with the proposed amendments to community grants policy bylaw and will consider an amended bylaw at the next meeting. And that council will review the amount provided for grants at the budget meeting and potentially reduce the amount to $9,000.
All right, in favor? Carried. Annual renewal of the annual township agreement with the Bytown Motorcycle Association. Tara?
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the manager of community development's administrative report entitled 2024 Renewal of Township Agreement with the Bytown Motorcycle Association. The council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to sign the 2024 agreement with the BMA to honor their trail permit on the Crown roads within the North Frontenac Parklands.
Comments? Counselor Fowler?
I was just wondering with the, this group, when they're using our roads, are the roads holding up okay with these, types of machines being on the road? Do we know anything about that? Maybe Darwin would know.
Or maybe Brooke would know. Tori, somebody.
So I'll let Brooke answer that, but these are on our crown roads within the program, so it's not our, so really this is a question for Brooke, this one.
So they do use our roads and we haven't seen any significant damage, no different than ATVs or vehicles being on the road. There's no extra significant damage to the roads.
Do we have any complaints about their operation?
No, very similar to four-wheelers. I mean, you get an odd concern, but it's nothing of major.
Deputy Mayor, you had a question?
I can't find it now, but why are you dropping it from 6,000 to 5,500?
65 to 6.
65 to 6, sorry.
So 65 to 6. So they've actually seen a decrease in their permit sales and how many people are actually riding here. So that's why it decreased from 6,500 to 6,000.
So in future, you're not setting a precedent here where you have to drop it every year because they've been doing it for so long.
That's right. It's a brand new agreement every year. So we have the authority to look at the financial contribution every single year.
My only concern with that is they came up with $6,000 last year and we said, we'll sign the agreement if it's 6,500 and they did. So, you know, do we take the leap of faith and agree with that, with the 6 or say we want 65? Fred?
Yeah, I think it should be back at 6,500.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Counselor or Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Fowler. If we said it last year, I don't see any reason to reduce it. Everything is getting more expensive.
Anybody else? So if we change the agreement to 6,500? Okay, how do I do that? I should know this by now. I'm sorry that I don't. What do you have to do?
Do you need that in a form of a motion?
So I think, and I'm not sure about timing for this, but I think the best thing is to give direction to Brooke to go back and negotiate for the 6,500 and then bring back the agreement or an update on that. Rather than putting in here that we'll sign it if it's 6,500, because then we have to go through and the bylaw is not going to match.
That's what we did last year.
Yeah, so I think the best thing, if council wants Brooke to renegotiate with the 6,500, that's the direction in the motion, and then you get the agreement. Once that negotiation's finished, is there a timeline that you need to meet?
No, we'll have lots of time to negotiate. It's not till the season opens up in the spring.
So
If count,
if we agree with this,
so if
what do you have to do here?
I have to amend this motion
Okay,
to
so
say that we'll go back and renegotiate. That's the direction I'm getting from council. Yes.
I think I get a little bit confused about what the actual process is when you start amending resolutions.
So the amendment reads, so we've removed and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to sign the agreement and that council instructs the manager of community development to renegotiate with Bytown Motorcycle Association for a fee of $6,500 and report back to council.
Final comments? In favor? Carried. speed limit bylaw update.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's Administrative Report entitled Speed Limit Bylaw Update. And the council approves the proposed updated speed limits, including North Shore Road to revise existing 60 kilometers to 50 kilometers per hour. Head Road revise existing 60 kilometers to 50 kilometers per hour. Smith Road revise existing 60 kilometers per hour to 50 kilometers per hour, commencing 4.7 kilometers from the intersection with Arddock Road to the end. And that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to adopt an updated speed bylaw.
So I'm sure it's just a typo, but Head Road is actually 40 kilometers per hour currently. And I did check and there is a sign there indicating that at the start of the road when you turn off of 41. So the current speed limit on Head Road is 40. It probably should be dropped to 30, but it's 40 right now.
Are you online? Can you answer that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Darwin here. I'd have to check our bylaw. I'm certain that the gravel end portion of Head Road is signed at 60 currently. And it's 60. I'd have to take a quick look at the bylaw and check for the Head Road turning off of 41.
Yeah, I know. I think I had mentioned the other day that I didn't see a sign there, which was my error. So the other night going home, I checked and there's a sign on the right-hand side as soon as you turn onto Head Road that I believe says 40 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
I don't know about the signage on the road, but the bylaw provides currently that it's 40 kilometers until you pass so far past Chapameca Lake Road. And then it's supposed to be 60. I have no idea about signage.
A question for Darwin. Darwin, do you not think maybe it would be good for the whole road to be at 40? Because I've gotten complaints from people on that road about people driving too fast.
Darwin?
Sorry, I was just looking at the bylaw. The recommendation to go to 50 was out of the report prepared by Wills, just examining road surface, horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, traffic, number of entrances, etc. So that recommendation came from the consultant. And sorry, could Tara repeat what she saw from the bylaw?
So we had two different speeds on Head Road in the bylaw. So it's from the 41 intersection to a certain point, some distance from Chapameca Lake Road. I'm just trying to find the bylaw. And then from the Chapameca Lake Road to the end was a different speed.
I'll review Head Road from 41 to the end and come back with a recommendation for that. Just given the uncertainty here. Sorry, I hadn't reviewed the entire stretch of road versus what is in the bylaw.
Darwin? Councillor Hudel?
So I'm going to comment on North Shore Road. We've been asking probably for the last 4 or 5 years to lower that down to 40. There's about 30 residents on North Shore Road and all would agree that that would be 40. So I'm not sure why, if there's no cost to the township, let's just put a 40 sign there.
Well, the same can be said for Smith Road. After you get past that 4.7 kilometers, it's pretty iffy. So they can all go to 40 as far as I'm concerned.
Also, obviously, like the legal part of this is council determines the posted speed and the bylaws passed accordingly, creating them. So it's council's call what limit really gets posted on these roads. The recommendation from Wills was based on the Transportation Association of Canada, the technical guidelines, and after reviewing the conditions on those roads have recommended, that the limits could be as high as what's recommended here at 50, but it really I agree. We've dealt with these issues for a number of years. Council passed a resolution back in 2021 that we would follow for any requests from residents, that we would follow the recommendations for the posted speed limits out of the technical report, out of the Wills report at the time. But it's certainly council's decision on what limits they want posted on these.
So I drive North Shore Road every day. You cannot go 50 in some of those locations, so it has to be 40.
Same with Smith Road.
Yeah.
So can we just change this 60s all the way through to 40K?
And we can revise the limits identified here and at 40 versus 50.
We're just in the process of revising the resolution.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor?
What I'm hearing is that Darwin's a bit uncomfortable with us as a council contravening an agreement we made previously to abide by recommendations from the consultant. But in this case, I would agree with the 40 limit. Sorry, Darwin.
I'm fine with that, Mr. Mayor. It's we've dealt with each of these roads other than Head Road for a long period of time. The one comment I do make every time this comes up is we have say one location on a stretch of road. If it's a concern, it would normally address it with an advisory or a warning sign. We don't post the whole road at a lower limit because of one or two locations. And I always use the example of 509 from Ampa to Snow Road. There's the curves located just the opposite side of the Ampa shop that you would never travel at 80. But 509 from Ampa to Snow Road is posted at 80. We don't lower it because of one or two particular locations. But I agree, there's been a long series of issues and concerns expressed about these stretches, and if I'm fine with 40 if that's council's decision.
I asked Darwin a question. Darwin, is there any reason we couldn't bring this bylaw back to the next meeting and do the amendment, this change in the resolution?
That would be fine with me, and then I'll look at Head Road, review it, and just make sure we're consistent with other postings on there.
Well, the way this reads right now, the entire Head Road would be at 40K. But
Just remotely, I can't pull the bylaw up easily, but
if we want to bring this back or defer it to the next meeting? Pardon? Well, that's the question.
I think everyone's in agreement that it's 40. Why can't we just prove it now? Why are you bringing it back?
I just because right now the bylaw says 50, so I have to go through and change it to 40. So that's all, just because of, it just makes it easier to do it administratively at the next meeting.
Okay, so if we defer this, what do we need?
This amended motion.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Speed Limit Bylaw Update, and that council approves the proposed updated speed limits, including North Shore Road, revise existing 60 to 40 kilometers per hour, Head Road, revise existing 60 to 40 kilometers per hour, and Smith Road, revise existing 60 kilometer to 40 kilometer, commencing 4.7 kilometers from the intersection with Ardock Road to the end, and that council will consider a bylaw at the next meeting to adopt an updated speed bylaw.
In favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Darren. So the road report.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's Administrative Report dated January 12, 2024, entitled Road Needs Study Report 2022-2023, and that the financial requirement and proposed constrained 5-year capital plan from the Road Needs Study will be reviewed during the 2024 budget discussions, and that once approved by council, the Road Needs Study Report 2022 will be placed on the township's website.
Any comments? So Darwin, did you look up that 28 versus 32,000?
Yes, I did, Mr. Mayor. I didn't have to look it up, actually. I realized later that it was a unfortunate way to present those numbers. If I could go through a couple comments.
Sure.
There's lots of information in that report, but essentially the takeaway is the impact on our budgets and the budget needs over a 10-year period. And then for the first 5 years, identifying the specific road program that we intend to follow and the sections of roads and the roads that we'll be addressing. To comment on this issue where gravel roads are identified for programming purposes as costing 32,000 per kilometer to address. That provides 75 millimeters of granular A, and it's water graded, compacted. That's the number from Will's report. I find we actually come in less than that annually, just for a number of reasons, but we have a good aggregate supply and some pretty competitive bidding locally on that. The surface treatment number, and it's unfortunate that I've presented these together, but that's provided as just a crude way of demonstrating for surface treated roads that we need to be treating about 26 kilometers annually, and that $28,000 per kilometer, that is just putting a single lift of surface treatment over existing surface treatment. It's not turning a gravel road into surface treated and only putting one single application on it. It would never, one, it wouldn't include any costs associated with preparing the road to surface treat, and two, one lift would never be structurally adequate to run traffic on. So they're not provided there those numbers aren't provided to give a direct comparison between treating a road with gravel or treating it with surface treatment.
Erwin, at any point in time, would the comparison between the two become almost the same cost? Like you're doing gravel roads every 3 years, you're doing tar and chip or surface treatment approximately every 7?
Yeah, they would never be equivalent. The better way to program this and cost it is what the report goes on to do, where it looks at the resurfacing based on need. And there's a recommended budget then for preservation just to keep the good roads good, and a budget allowance for reconstruction. But if we took, say, a gravel road and to convert it to surface treatment, it would probably be equivalent to doing a double surface treatment with pulverizing, assuming there was lots of granular. So that's closer to 90,000 a kilometer. And and the gravel, using Will's number, would be about 35,000 a kilometer. So even the surface treatment without considering hot mix is 2.5 times surface treatment, and you get another 2 years before you have to reapply it.
These are pretty big numbers, pretty scary numbers, and I guess they ultimately reflect that we got a lot of road and not that many people paying for them, unlike a city. But specifically, Darwin, how do you even start to think about the South Levant Road, which is an entry from Ottawa and is heavily used, is in absolutely terrible shape? I mean, where do you start with a road like that?
South Levant, we've included in the road need study includes a constrained road plan, So taking our kind of current funding level of 700 to 800,000 a season for hard surface. In that plan, not for this season, but for next season, we're recommending doing South Levant Road. But it takes pretty much the entire hard surface budget to address it for that in that year. South Levant's kind of unique that it's like it's done. It's just at the point that you support it with repairs, but you've got all your money's worth out of it. So it's certainly ready to be programmed. And I think the point in trying to schedule these jobs and plan it over 5 years is to avoid getting into the South Levant Road situation where we're treating roads earlier, and as a result we're able to spend less on them and we're able to do more kilometers. Last year we and with the roads we did, they all required pulverizing and 2 lifts of surface treatment, so it was an expensive treatment. And then Henderson Road was a reconstruction that was costly. But so last year, with our target, it was 26 to 28 kilometers of surface treatment resurfacing a year. We only did 7 point something, and it was just because of the cost of the projects that we took on. So we're far short of our target, and we're far short of the target going forward with the current funding levels. Just looking at the program proposed for the next 5 years with the constrained or capped funding, we do as little as 8 kilometers in a season, and there's and we do as much as 12, but we're never approaching our 26 kilometers. So I guess at this point, I'm just presenting the report and answering the types of questions around costs of treatment. And with the treasurer, I think we really see the detailed discussions on the program and funding level during the budget discussions.
Mr. Hoodle?
I was just thinking maybe Mr. Ford would like to take care of some of our roads and does it for the cities.
He used to, but he gave them back to us.
Right. And then there have been discussions about handing this over to the county, and that will never happen. The South Frontenac has said absolutely not. They will not do it. And they backed out. And they also hold the majority of votes. Well, they don't. They hold 3 out of the 9 votes. So, but
Yeah,
it's,
that was
it's their
brought
money.
up and they said absolutely not.
Yeah, it was very definite. So we just think if you were Central Frontenac, you have to look after 38, which is highway design, eh? So there you go. Okay, any final comments on Darwin's or on this report? In favor? Resolution's passed. Rebuilding the hammer used by the excavator or on the excavator.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Herber. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's Administrative Report entitled Rebuild of Hammer Used on the Excavator, and the council instructs the treasurer to transfer the proposed $28,500 cost of the rebuild from the Infrastructure Sustainability Reserve Fund.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Reports from the Committee of Adjustment, the minutes.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee dated November 27th, 2023.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the notes of the Economic Development Task Force dated December 18th, 2023.
Comments? I have one. Does anybody have any questions about the amount of information we're getting out of the minutes? Like, I read those minutes and I'm not getting anything. I get more from listening to the people that are on the committee, voicing at a council than I am by reading the minutes. That's just my my concern. This isn't the only one that has it. There's precious little in some of these minutes. So Deputy Mayor and then Councilor.
Doesn't it say in the municipal act that minutes will be taken without comment?
Well, you know, I'm sitting here as the mayor and I'm looking at this and going, well, what are they doing? I mean, it's a fair question. So if I'm asking, what is our electorate asking? And I'm
Personally,
asking-
I agree with you. I'd love to see minutes written with comments, but I'm not sure it's allowed in the task force. I could be wrong.
So
Stephanie?
I must admit, I like the answer you received from our deputy mayor, but I also appreciate what you're saying, because to your point about the public, right? How would they know what we're, so perhaps there is a way to do a little bit of both, so it's a bit more, there's a bit more information without it.
I'm not asking for detail. I'm just asking for, what are some of the topics you were actually discussing? You know, that'd be nice. And it isn't the only committee.
It's
Tara,
the Bull campgrounds for the most part.
no. Well, that's,
So procedurally for council and committees of council, which right now we have the P&A committee. Because those two are able to pass resolutions, that's all that can be included in the minutes. So you're correct. Municipal act, no note or comment. With a task force, it's set up completely different. They cannot pass resolutions. So they have to do their business by just recording a summary, or, I mean, you can do note or comment if you want to get down to that, but I would strongly suggest that you don't do that. But you can make them more fulsome if you want to, because there are no resolutions. The only resolutions that would be there would be the recommendations coming to council. So you'll see those in the form of a resolution. And then that's just basically the same as an admin report where staff are putting forward a recommendation in the form of a motion for council's discussion and vote. So they can be more detailed. That would just depend on the secretary to add further detail.
Just a question, these committees, are they recorded like our council meetings?
So currently we do not record. The only thing being recorded are council meeting.
But we could record these and
There's-
that would solve some of the problem. Mr. Mayor.
okay. Well, it's also the P&A committee. One of the fire departments. I mean, I read this stuff and I'm going, well, what are we approving other than this happened and this happened? We have a new member, this member's dropped off, and we approved the previous minutes.
The P&A committee lasted 13 minutes, right? Like that.
Well,
So with respect to the P&A committee, the way it is
way it
the
is.
way, unfortunately, based on the municipal act, we can't add note or comment. However, that committee does receive detailed reports, the same as council, through like admin reports and things like that. So you can read the agenda and then see what action the P&A has taken. That's sort of your
And
balance
as
for
an
that.
ex officio member, I could go and find out for myself. Okay, so, but no one else can. Okay, it's just my comment. I've seen it before and I've finally, okay. Councilor Regent,
No, it's a very good comment. Honestly, if we're supposed to be as, you know, within limits, we're supposed to be as open to the public as we can. And it's, I agree with you. I think if the rest of the Economic Development Task Force would like our minutes to be a little bit more, whatever the word is, we can discuss that. I don't
how about
feel like
informative?
more informative, then I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you. These are things that directly affect the township without stepping on anybody's privacy.
But if we were to record them, which we could, right? That would alleviate some of the problems. A lot of municipalities now, instead of writing minutes, are just posting the recording.
Anyway, that was just my comment. So for what it's worth. Okay, so we have the resolution on the table.
Read it.
We go ahead.
Moved by Councillor Hewell, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the notes of the Economic Development Task Force dated December 18th, 2023.
In favor? Carried. And yes, you did. Okay. Giving notice of motion by a member of council to the clerk for council's consideration for inclusion to the next meeting agenda. Seeing none. Motions written notice of which has been given by a member of council and approved by council at a prior meeting. Seeing none. Council verbal reports, council portfolios. First up, Councilor Regent and I met with the Lakelands Family Health Team in preparation for our meeting with the Minister of Health. And it was a really excellent meeting. I learned so much, and I just realized I'm just tapping the surface. It is so intertwined and so difficult, and there will be no easy answers. There's a couple of other ideas came out of it, though. And then secondly, we received correspondence from Hydro One asking for people who wanted to, or delegations who wanted to come in and talk to them at Roma. And we have said, we'd love to. So that looks like that'll be on the Tuesday morning if we get the presentation time. It looks like it's very low key. The Minister of Health's presentation or delegation will be much more sophisticated. These guys just look like they just want to sit down and talk, which is just fine. Pardon? Oh, definitely. So we've invited Corey, and we'll go for sure. And Councilor Fowler, you're there as well. Depends when it is, but yes, it's Tuesday morning. But I really want to see that closing plenary speaker. So anyway, and that's pretty much it. There's no council meetings next week, and on the Municipal Service Corporation, the initial meeting of the board of directors to establish the corporate structure, charter, the bylaws, and so on. The first one is Monday next week. So, Councillor Good.
Yes, I have nothing to report at this time.
Councillor Regent.
No, you've given the update about the family health team. Other than that, no, that's the only thing going on.
Thank you. Councillor Hoodle.
Nothing to update.
Councillor Hermer.
Nothing.
Councillor. Are we sure? Councillor Fowler.
I just got a little bit, the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, we had a meeting yesterday. Got a few things sorted out. Also, seniors and law enforcement together. We do have a presentation at the Berry Hall, and it's going to be on seniors home support services. And that's it for me.
Okay. Councillor Deputy Mayor Ingles.
Nothing to report on lake associations. No, that's it.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, so now we do the introduction and reading of the bylaws.
So this motion has been amended to remove the two bylaws that were amended, that are to be amended and brought back to the next meeting. Moved by Councillor Hermer, second by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 2024-03, Community Grants Policy as amended. Bylaw 2024-05, Borrowing Bylaw. Bylaw 2024-06, Public Notice Policy. And Bylaw 2024-08, Road Closing. And that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Motion's carried. Public forum, anybody online? There's no one in the council chambers. No one online. Do not have a closed session. Confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-09, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held January 12th, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved that council adjourns the meeting at 11:20 a.m. until February 2nd, 2024, or at the call of the chair.
Comments? In favor? Motion's carried. That's the meeting, folks.